to inadequate contract management, local content requirements not applied, goods and services that were procured without obtaining the required number of quotations. There are also findings in cases where the deviations were done without getting the approval from National Treasury, and also competitive and fair procurement processes that were not followed. Again, the department and the entities must ensure that preventative controls are strengthened to ensure that they prevent irregular and wasteful expenditure emanating from these findings. And there should be training where required to ensure that SCM officials understand and apply the laws accordingly. Chairperson, the Public Audit Act was amended in 2019, as I indicated earlier, and gave certain powers to the AG as we identify findings during the audit process. Chairperson, at this point in time, I'd like to pause and then give over the opportunity to Mpimeti to take us through this section and the rest of the remaining slides. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mbali. Thank you, Chair. As part of our phased-in approach in implementing the PAA amendments, what we are doing currently is to look at entities where...
Can you show your face and then take off your video? Okay. Honorable members, this is the official Mpimeti. You can switch off now. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so in relation to material irregularity, we highlight to the committee the definition of the material irregularity, which basically is any non-compliance with or contravention of legislation, fraud, theft, or breach of fiduciary duty that would have been identified during any phase of the audit under the PAA, which then would result or is likely to result in a material financial loss, misuse, or loss of a public material resource, or substantial harm to a public sector institution or the general public. We then note the selection criteria. So currently at the phase where we are looking at any non-compliance in line with the definition as stated. We then note that as we implement, we are considering entities where there's a significant portion of the expenditure budget and the irregular expenditure. For the year 2020, 2021, 2022, the Department of Sport, Art and Culture will also be part of those that will be implementing as part of within the portfolio. And we will look into the other entities into 2022 and 2023. I will then provide an overview of the snapshot of the 28 entities within the portfolio. 12 of them had clean audits. 23 of them had financially unqualified financial statements, and 3 of them had findings on performance reports. I also then note that 16 of them had findings on compliance with legislation, and the irregular expenditure in the portfolio for the current year totaled 23.9 million. We move over to governance and internal controls. Here we highlight the assurance that was then provided. We have 2 levels. The first level of assurance would be at senior management, accounting officer or accounting authority, as well as executive authority. Here we highlight that at senior management levels, there are concerns at DSAC, IZICO, National Library SA, as well as PENSALP, and Freedom Park requires provided limited assurance. With accounting officer level, the concerns were then noted at DSAC, PENSALP, and Freedom Park, with executive authority concerns noted at PENSALP. So here we are saying management, as well as the accounting authority and the executive authority, needs to ensure that they provide assurance and they support the entities in order to ensure that controls are in place and that they then deal with any internal control deficiencies that might be in place. We then also note at second level internal audit as well as audit committee. For internal audit, we then note that at PenSALB, they provide limited assurance. They're supposed to then assist in terms of reviewing the financials as well as the APP. And that's where we noted that there's certain areas that were then not attended to in that regard. With the audit committee at PenSALB, we also then noted that they are providing some assurance and that would then require improvement. Excuse me. On the status of internal control, we then break down the drivers of internal control into 3 areas. Firstly, we look into leadership, effective leadership, where there were areas of concern at PenSALB. We are then saying there that leadership needs to then assist the management in that entity to ensure that they have controls in place to combat any misstatements and any other issues that might occur. Financial and performance management, we then note that at PenSALB and IZICO, there's issues in relation to proper record keeping. And we also note that in terms of the daily and month controls, which is your daily checks and balances in simple terms, we have concerns that were noted at DSAC, IZICO, and PenSALB, and there is intervention that's required at Freedom Park to ensure that the daily checks and balances are in place. Review and monitoring compliance, DSAC, National Library SA, as well as PenSALB, they do have some concerns that were noted there. And then with Freedom Park, it does require intervention. When it comes to governance, we looked at risk management, and PenSALB was of concern. Management would then need to make sure that they apply risk management, identify risks, and make sure that they have put in place measures to then address the risk that has been identified to ensure a good, healthy control environment. Status of information technology environment. We then note that, we looked at 2 focus areas, which is IT governance as well as IT system controls. And with IT governance, it's there to ensure that IT effectively and efficiently used to enable the entity to achieve its mandate, as most of the entities would then be using an automated control environment. So we then need to make sure that there is an IT system that is in place that operates to achieve the mandate of the entities. We then noted that there were some concerns in relation to IT governance at DSAC and PenSALB. And with regards to IT system controls, there were also concerns at DSAC and PenSALB. We then recommend that management should ensure that there's a patch management policy and procedures and monitor for compliance under IT governance. We also then noted for IT system controls, we recommended that management should ensure it tests and applies relevant patches for outdated hosts. We then summarized the key root causes that we identified, which then were slow response in implementing adequate and effective preventative controls, inability, instability, and/or vacancies, inadequate consequence management. So those are the 3 key areas that then management would need to look into in order to improve the outcomes. We then move on to the progress on the special report. We highlight the key observations that were reported in special report 2, where we noted that there were no mechanisms to prevent the disbursements to people with other sources of income. And we then also noted that there were duplicate payments and key information not being captured, inadequate validations by the system, and a lack of reconciliations. There were also weaknesses in the procurement process. We then followed up in the current year And the accounting officer clarified the criteria for eligibility for the relief fund on the sport, arts, and culture. There was also written assurance that was obtained from the payment agencies to confirm that these entities had implemented effective, efficient, and transparent financial management and internal control systems prior to the transferring the funds to them. Then we note in the current year, as we're auditing, the findings that were then identified and the conclusion thereof. There were some non-compliances on personal protective equipment procurement, where hand sanitizers were then procured at prices that were above the Annexure A list from National Treasury. We then also noted that the department did not differentiate between management fee payable to the disbursing agents and the amount that was of transfer for disbursing agents. This resulted in a misclassification of the management fee. Then there was also double dipping. This is where beneficiaries who benefited from both the department's COVID-19 relief and the relief funds from other government institutions, and this totaled 244,200 rands. There was then non-compliance also in procurement process of digital solutions, whereby the supplier who received the highest points was not appointed. We have then we have recommendations in place, and these are for management to make sure that they have measures in place that would ensure that emergency procurement is conducted in line with the relevant National Treasury instructions. Management should then consider the nature of the transactions per the MOA and separating the management fee from the transfer and subsidy figure, and correctly classifying management fee as goods and services. Management should also put effective controls in place to ensure that applicants that have received funds from the other state institutions are identified by checking against other government databases. This would require management to then liaise with the other departments and entities. Management should review and monitor compliance with applicable laws and legislations and ensure that the highest scorer is appointed. As no payments had been made yet, management should prevent the irregular expenditure that might occur in relation to this transaction. And then we provide recommendations. So the recommendations that we have put forward for the sport, arts, and culture portfolio are as follows: to ensure adequate and effective implementation of preventative controls, develop and implement effective action plans to address audit findings and key deficiencies, improve on controls to monitor compliance and enforce consequence management, improve on controls to ensure vacancies are filled, and adequate staffing. And the recommendations that we then provide to the portfolio committee are as follows: to monitor and regularly follow up with the executive authority and accounting officer on implementation of action plans and preventative controls, implementation of consequence management in relation to irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, and all other allegations under investigation. The culture of consequence management should be enforced in the portfolio. I thank you. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Ompemeti. Are you still having something to present? I don't know whether DG he is back. I don't know who's leading you. I call DG
Yes,
then.
I'm present, Honorable Chairperson.
What are you saying now? You have finished your
I'm saying-
presentation. DG?
Honorable Chairperson, I was confirming my attendance and the team of the department. We are all here with the DDGs.
I've just now, honorable members, got a email from the office of the minister is attending cabinet committee meeting today. DG, I was responding to Mr. Kanun that this is not the first time that the apology of minister, they are sending it late, as if we are all knowing that on Tuesday there are cabinet committee meetings. Sometimes both of the minister and deputy minister, they do attend, but we always want an apology. So this apology is getting to me whilst we are already past the question of apologies. This is not the first time that I've asked the office that they must do this in time. Thank you, DG. Honorable members, I'm suspecting now we have chance to engage with the presentation. I'm suspecting, DG, you will be assisting the team when the questions are rising. To you, honorable members, I'm seeing the hand of honorable, good morning, honorable Mahlingozi. You are the first one to have the hand. The second one is honorable Maloman. Good morning to all of you, honorable members, Malomane, honorable Zondi, honorable Denise, in that order. Thank you, honorable members.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning to everyone. Yes, I'm sure everyone has been having a tough time, and yes, my voice is still not back yet. But I would love to turn off this, video, because I'll be having the load shedding very soon. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. We've seen you, honorable member.
Chairperson, I would love to thank the presentation from the AGSA, committee, but I'm realizing that that forensic report is still kept away from the portfolio committee, and it is really making our oversight to be really wanting, because we don't have the nitty-gritties of the actual report as to how the monies were mismanaged, or more to say were embezzled. Can the Auditor General explain fully their findings, with the department, and can they explain exactly which entities received clean audit? And I mean, after all the noise that's been made about the mismanagement of finances, how come the clean audits being the outcome? And still, again, because we are in the dark as to what happened to the finances, within the National Arts Council, what did the Auditor General find with the NEC's financial mismanagement regarding the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program? And where did the AGSA found the entity NAC severely wanting and dismally mismanaged? If they can explain to us exactly which part and how. And also based on this disbursement of income, and the duplication of people double dipping, and the non-compliance and everything. What is the Auditor General's overall opinion about the financial management and internal control systems of this Department of Sports, Arts and Culture? I will stand and wait for the answers, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Madlingosi. Honorable Malomane.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Let me just maybe open my video so that maybe I'll be clear. Thank you. Greetings to everyone. Can I switch off my video now, Chair? If
Yes.
you allow me.
Yes, you can.
Thank you. Thank you. Greetings to you, Chair, honorable members, our staff, from the AG staff, and then from the department. Let me all greet you. Let me also join in welcoming the report from the Auditor General Office that is being presented to us today. We can see and hear that the department, they've taken it as the first, they've audited it as for the first time. We do agree because it was two departments that merged, and I know that is very, very, very difficult when it comes to the issue of the department because of the entities that are so many. But we need to say well done to those who have managed to make sure that they've got a clean audit. But my questions will be going to the presentation on slide 21, that investigation were not conducted into all allegations of final misconduct against officials. If the department is here, can they maybe provide the insight if there are any things that have done because it was a presentation that has been made, or maybe they're still busy with anything that is under the investigation of the financial misconduct. On the issue of on slide 27, which is titled assurance provided, that of the AG, why is Robben Islands included in the, if the entity audit was still outstanding at this time of their compilation of the report? Because there is nothing that we can say is true or whatsoever according to their presentation. The other issue that I want to speak about is the report on regression in the compliance with legislation, and that the AG raised a similar concern in the previous financial year in the departments, in the entities, but it seems as if there is nothing that is happening, and that we need to make sure that from the department, maybe is there any failure maybe to implement the effective action plans to address significant internal control the deficiencies, or what is the department actually doing so that they make sure that in the next financial year, when the AG release its report, the mistake that they've done in the previous years is not done accordingly, it's corrected. The other thing that I want to speak about, the issue of the double dipping. I know it's a challenge that the department has faced, but also in my view is that we need to, I don't know, as Parliament or as members, we need to come up with a way to speak to other departments, because I don't think if there is a system that can check, a system that if maybe we are paying someone regarding to the issue of PESP, if we are paying supplier number 37, it can also reflect in your department that supplier number 37 in Department of Education has benefited. I think that is the thing, maybe if maybe in the department, they can try and engage the other departments also to say there can be a, I don't know which system they can use to make sure that we prevent this issue of double dipping, in making sure that maybe all the department has a system that they can see if a supply has been paid in one department, so that the other department cannot make a payment. Because if I was checking and then realizing and checking what will it be, I think that is the issue of the system. Our system is not good. We need to make sure that we check the system and review on that issue of the double dipping. But we don't condone to say they must do double dipping. I think we also need to check to say what went wrong. If it is the system, how do we correct it forward as we're going to this financial year? And I believe learning from this AG report, the department and the entities will learn more to say they must promise us as a committee that coming next financial year when they are presenting, the AG is presenting, everything will be in order. I want to see a superb report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Malomane. Honorable Zondi.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Sisaphila, Chair, sibuyile kodwa to door.
Siyabonga, siyabonga.
We are energized again,
Yes,
and we are going to
must.
focus on the work of the government again.
Thank you, Honorable Zondi. Thank you for that.
Chair, Honorable Malomane covered me on a number of questions, but I'm joining the queue, Chair, in welcoming the presentation by the AG. Chair, we acknowledge the report where out of 12 entities, they are 6 unchanged, and also 3 regression. We acknowledge that, Chair. If there were 12 in the previous financial year, and 6 has changed, and 6 is unchanged. At least there is progress there, but the regression on the 3 entities is regrettable, and we wish to know more from the entity itself, because even if the government, the department is here, but we'll find out when all the entities are giving their reports, are presenting their reports on their annual financial year. That is where we will be able to find out from them where the department has failed to play a management control. We'll find out from the department, but where the entity itself is responsible for that, we'll find out from them. We acknowledge, Chair, the highest irregular expenditure of 23 million, in particular on the entity NAC. We will find out from them what happened. Chair, I have just one question from the auditor, because Auditor General is not going to implement a consequence management. It's the department and the entities themselves that are going to do that. But just one question, where there is no change in the financial year under review, what are the causal factors of this ineffectiveness of the entity or department? Is it as a result of incapacity of the department or the entity concerned, or the financial challenges? I know, Chair, the issue of incapacity is a pregnant name when you're dealing with finances, because it can have a multiplicity of meaning. But I hope the AGs understands what I mean by incapacity to deal with the challenges that are being raised by the Auditor General, or the financial challenges. It's between the two. It's either the incapacity of the management or the financial challenges. What are the causal factors as far as Auditor General is concerned, where there are no changes or where there are regression? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Zondi. Now, can I give it to Honorable Dennis?
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues, and to all the department and the other stakeholders, AG. Thank you for the presentations. I just got a few questions, Chairperson. I would like to know from the AG, if there was a significant improvement in the irregular expenditure. And maybe we should get a list of those institutions or entities that have contributed to that improvement of the irregular expenditure. And then I would like to know if the AG have looked. I know there's a report from a department on the COVID-19 report, but if the AG have looked at the 300 million that my colleague have asked on the presidential stimulus program, and if AG have looked at that 300 million, an overall view of the department performance on that. And then I would like to know if all the entities submitted financial statements. The date of 31st May was mentioned. If all entities, and I'm particularly interested in Robben Island. And then on page 21, I think other member raised it as well, the allegations of the misconduct. We need feedback on that. And then the consequence management. The department, Freedom Park, Boxing SAA is mentioned. And that the department did not conduct investigation. So I think the department must answer, the accounting officer must answer on why are we silent on that, or not pursuing that avenue if it is the department itself. The clean audits, the 12 clean audits out of the 28 entities is still it's under 50%. So we still have work to do there. And then the last point, Chairperson, I noted that under the last part of the presentation that covers the audit committee work, leadership, financial performance, governance, IT governance, and system controls, that the department itself is raised every time. The department, Ezekiel, and of course Robben Island, is listed every single time the AG have raised these different levels of what leadership must do. And I think that is for me a concern, because the department must take the lead in good governance and leadership and IT systems, which will then inform and enhance the entities to improve their performance. So I think the department is struggling in these areas. Then I understand why the entities is also struggling in some of the areas. But overall, I think the committee's role of oversight, Chairperson, I think we are doing what we can do within our ability and our power. And I think the AG itself raised the point about the new, I think it's 2019 Public Audit Act, I think it's called. Yeah, 2019. And the powers to the AG. And I think we must also look at that, and the amendments in terms of supply chain management, it must still come. That I think is the basis of the consequences management, in particular the senior management in departments, but that must be pursued. I would think we need to ask the AG to start looking at how they're going to implement that powers that the Parliament has given them, particularly to the senior management. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Dennis. The next honorable member is Honorable Mhlongo. Honorable Mhlongo. Honorable Mhlongo. Honorable Mhlongo.
Uphume ibhatyi.
Uphume ibhatyi. Honorable Van Dijk, maybe there's a problem of load shedding. I don't know. Yes, Honorable Van Dijk. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairperson. And also, I want to thank the team for the presentation. I've also have a few questions. The PSP forensic investigation report that was mentioned by Honorable Madlingozi and also Dennis. I want to know the reason why we have not, as the committee portfolio committee received that report as yet, and how does that has that impacted on the audit, if indeed. Then the National Heritage Council, I have a problem with them responding to questions, and I was just wondering, the forensic investigation that was done, if those recommendations, if they were not implemented, how did that impacted on the audit? Then I want to ask, my next question will be on PACOFs. I last night received a document that was submitted to the AG regarding various submission that was presented or put forward to the AG, where it states with proof that documents were and apparently this was not addressed by the AG. So what I thought, I will share this with the committee, and then I would like the AG just to respond to us on these matters that was put forward to you, because it shows that companies were overpaid. There was procurement processes that were not followed, and it also seems as if the AG has exposed the whistleblower to the CEO and CFO. So now there's that person must now bear the brunt of that. So I would really like to know if the AG can recall that they've received a report with different statements on corruption in the entity. And when I look at all of these statements, also assets that have been hidden while the audit was done, that apparently this was also not addressed. So if I put it forward, then if that we can maybe get a response on why these issues were not addressed, and how that will eventually, how did that impact on the PACOF's audit, so that it actually got an unqualified with findings. Yeah, I would also like from the AG report, who were the supplier that they referred to, because according to this document, there's more than one supplier that has been paid without documentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to apologize. The technology failed me, but nonetheless, can I ask the questions? And I welcome the presentation. So I wanted to find out regarding the PPA amendment. The lady was presenting stated clearly that the department will follow suit when they do implementation. I wanted to find out what action will be taken, what action will the AG take against the department, when will this happen, and how did the department confirm that entities use funds accordingly? An example I want to find out regarding the NAC relief funding. For now, thanks, Chair.
Honorable Adams. Honorable Adams.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues, the department, and the invitees. Let me also welcome the presentation of the department. Chair, I was also covered by some of the questions, but I have some. The AG raised similar concerns in the previous, let me off my video.
Okay.
The AG raised similar concerns in the previous financial year. As committee, we need to know why has the department failed to implement effective actions plans to address significant internal control. Some irregular expenditure which relates to a contravention of supply chain management regulations was also not reported for investigation. 6 out of 27 reports of regular expenditure were not investigated. The Latuli Museum included. 2019-2020, only 4 out of 29 reports were irregular expenditure, were not investigated. As committee, we has to know why this is the case. And then Chair Parkovs has incurred the majority, 99% of the portfolio fruitless and wasteful expenditure due to an incorrect supplier. This committee needs to know how this happened. The portfolio has reduced its fruitless and wasteful expenditure from 68 million rand in 2019-2020 to 1 million in 2020-21. We also should like to know what measures were put in place or what exciting measures were more strictly enforced to ensure this success. The other question was covered. The PEN South Africa board has as an entity improved its audit outcomes, Chair, from qualified in 2019-2020 to unqualified with fundings. In 2020-21, what support is the department providing to PEN South to improve its overall performance? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, honorable members. I'm suspecting we're going to repeat a question from honorable member number 1, because we've been doing our oversight to the entities and to the department. But really, let me thank the AG's report. I don't know whether these questions that I'm having, must I address the questions to the AG? I'm suspecting because the department is with us. For instance, I would love to know about 4 entities, your NAC and the department that prior approval of variation from National Treasury was not obtained in the prior of year and splitting of awards. State theatre relates to overspending on the budget for Open Slab contract exceeded without prior approval from Treasury and supply chain management for awards about 500,000. So these questions, I'm not yet sure whether I must direct to the AG, but AG saw these problems, and now I'm suspecting as we are having our own department, whilst there is an improvement of about 60% on past financial years, but there are glaring issues that we cannot say that all is well, especially the irregular expenditure, the fruitless, wasteful expenditure. If a department can take us through in order that we must be aware that they are doing their job to monitor and to make these park-offs, this Freedom Park, these NAC, these PEN Slab, these SARAs, that they do account and what they've done about all what is presented to us. So the most question to me, with the question to members, the answers that I'm expecting mostly is from our department, because there is a totally irregular expenditure, which was about 2397 2021, and then the improvement of 59.6177, which means it was reduced. Whilst it is reduced, would love to check what else that they are not doing with the entities, in order that it must not to be 60%, it can be 90%, and which are problems and hiccups that each department is doing. Maybe as a committee, we need to take care the recommendations. Committee and the department will monitor your department recommendations put by the AG. Maybe they can assist that we must get 90% reduced irregular expenditures. Together, if we can do that, even I don't think now UAG can do further, except that they've put down what is good, what is not good. And now the ball is in your court, department. But also I'm suspecting AG and honorable members, if we can even fast track this legislation that we want, the white paper, because some of the things there can be solved through our white paper, which if we can within this period, which was still members of this parliament, that it must be implemented. We must try to push that, because some of things, and even this double dipping, AG, are you only recommending to the department only and not recommending to the treasury itself? Because if there are no systems in all the departments, we cannot avoid to have the report that they are double dipping. But I'm asking, what is your role when we are seeing the problems across the departments? I thank you. Any intake from AG and after AG to the department itself? Thank you, Mbali.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I will address the questions that were posed to us based on our presentation. The first question was around the 12 entities that got a clean audit outcome, wherein an explanation was requested from our side. So in answering the question, Chairperson, I'll just explain once again to indicate how does an entity achieve a clean audit. So in terms of our focus areas that we audit, we look at the financial statements, whether they are presented in a manner that there are no material errors on those financial statements, meaning that they are fairly presented in terms of the auditing standards. We also look at compliance with legislation and also look at the performance information that is presented to say, is it valid, is it accurate and complete in terms of the evidence that we look at during the audit process. So an entity then achieves a clean audit if in all those three focus areas that we are auditing, there were no material findings reported in their audit report. So all the 12 entities that are sitting in that category, we have confirmed through our audit process that there were no material errors in their financial statements. There was no material non-compliance that we had to report in an audit report. And they also, in terms of their performance reporting, there were no findings that we identified, or if there were findings, those were corrected before we concluded an audit. And that's how they then attain a clean audit. Also, what we are saying then is that those entities then have a good base or good internal control environment, which will allow them to achieve their mandate. Hence, as part of our message, Chairperson, that we've included in the portfolio overall message on slide 10, we are saying that since these entities have now achieved a clean audit, they must also ensure that then those systems that they have in place must also translate to service delivery for the citizens, because they have shown that they have a good basis on which they can then implement their mandates. So that's my response to that first question, Chairperson. Then there has been a number of questions around the NAC, in particular, the implementation of the Presidential Employment Stimulus Package. Chairperson, perhaps also want to respond in terms of the findings that we identified in relation to this PESP implementation. Our findings were mainly in relation to the non-compliance aspect, which are highlighted under irregular expenditure, and also affecting the financial statements. Maybe let me start off with the matter that affected the financial statements. We identified during the audit process that as there were some claims that were instituted against the entity by some aggrieved applicants. And in that manner, the entity was then supposed to highlight these litigations as part of their contingent liabilities. And that was not done prior then to the submission of the financial statements. And then we highlighted this finding, and management subsequently then made a correction in the financial statements and showed those contingent liabilities in regards to these litigations. So that matter then was corrected in terms of the financial statements. In terms of compliance with legislation, there were two key findings relating to the PESP. One of them was that in some of the applications, the entity did not apply the regulation that required them to score the entities or the applicants accordingly, and that therefore resulted in the expenditure being irregular. It forms part then of the totally irregular expenditure for the NAC. The other aspect related to the budget being exceeded by the NAC, and that also that portion of the budget that was exceeded also resulted in irregular expenditure. So our focus was mainly on the financial statement aspect to say, was this correctly reported in terms of the financial statements, and also in terms of compliance with legislation to ensure that there was full compliance with the PFMA and the Enabling Act, which is the NAC Act and its regulations. And those are the findings that we identified. We've done the normal audit, which is a regularity audit. We have not done an investigation into the matter to get into the deeper findings that we identified or reported by the forensic investigation. We have not yet also looked at the forensic investigation because this was done subsequent to the audit being finalized. We will then in the new year look at the outcomes of the forensic investigation also as part of our risk assessment and to ensure that consequence management does take place. And there was a finding around also the findings that we identified on the relief that was provided by the department. Our findings are contained in the slide. Perhaps maybe just to explain again the nature of the findings. So our findings were in relation to firstly the issue of the double dipping. Maybe let me answer also the question that you've raised, Chairperson, on the double dipping. So what we are saying that because the department subsequently then they improved the criteria to say that if you are getting other assistance from other government entities, you are then not allowed to also get assistance from the Department of Sport, Art and Culture. But in doing the validations, the department was unable to pick up on some of the people that were also already getting relief from other government entities. And that's how then we are reporting on this double dipping. So in responding to that, the department has indicated that they did not have access to all the databases against which they can validate the applicants to ensure that double dipping is not occurring, as part of the reason why then they couldn't pick up on those applicants that we identified during the audit. Of course, Chair, you are right that we shouldn't raise this matter only to this particular department, because we have seen it happening also in other areas of government where the relief was provided, that people still tried to bypass the processes by applying and obtaining this relief from various government agencies or institutions. So yes, you are quite correct, Chair, that this matter should be raised at various levels to ensure that the message gets across to the whole of government. We are busy now also finalizing our general report for the 2020-21 audit cycle. And in this general report, we'll also then outline this as part of the root cause, perhaps, for this double dipping that was happening across government. And therefore, necessitating that there must be integrated systems across government to ensure that we prevent such from happening in future. Part of the findings that we reported was then on the issue of the implementing agents, the fees thereof, that it was not allocated accordingly in line with the reporting standard. So yes, we don't have any issues with the accuracy of the amounts being paid. However, the modified cash standard requires that they must be split between what should be goods and services, meaning the fees that were paid to the agencies, and also just the transfer payment that was used for the relief fund. So that second finding talks to that. And lastly, the issue of non-compliance in the appointment of the digital solution service provider. This matter was first raised also in the special report that we tabled in 2020. We followed up during the current audit, and we confirmed that indeed there was non-compliance with the procurement prescripts, in that the supplier that received the highest points was not appointed. There hasn't been any spending on this particular appointment of the service provider, but once there is spending, then it will result in irregular expenditure. So in short, those are the four findings that we are reporting under the relief provided by the department, including the response to COVID-19. I think the allegations part, the department will respond to that. And then assurance providers, yes, I note the inclusion of the Robben Island Museum. We had worked on the anticipated outcomes. At some point, we included all the entities in the portfolio, but seeing that Robben Island was not concluded, at some point we decided to remove them. So there was an error to still include them. Then in this final presentation, they should have been excluded when you finalized the slides. Apologies for that, Chairperson. I think I've addressed the issue about double dipping to say, yes, entities are expected to do the validations and communicate with other agencies in terms of trying to ensure that people are not getting funding from various agencies within government. But yes, that needs to be improved going forward by all entities and as the country as a whole. The question about the root causes or the incapacity to address the challenges that we are reporting, I think the Chairperson, the answer lies in preventative controls. Our message is that entities must build strong preventative controls that will ensure that their reporting is reliable, that will ensure that they could prevent non-compliance with legislation, meaning that there should be continuous reviews and monitoring around compliance, in particular with supply chain management prescripts and any other legislation to prevent non-compliance, because once non-compliance or irregularities have taken place, it requires then that entities must investigate these matters. And sometimes investigations are quite costly, especially where you need to bring in service providers to do, for instance, forensic investigations. So we are saying that entities can prevent all of that by ensuring that there are good preventative controls in place. There are checks and balances on a daily basis to ensure that there's full compliance, to ensure that reporting is aligned with the standards and that it's reliable. So I think that's the response that we are giving in terms of the challenge or the incapacity. It lies in the preventative controls. Entities must have strong control environments to prevent all of these findings from recurring. The other finding addressed to us was also on the audit of the 300 million for the presidential employment stimulus package. I think, Chair, I have covered that one to indicate how far we went in terms of our audit process and what we'll do going forward in relation to this one. There was a question about whether entities submitted financial statements on time. Yes, that's correct. All the entities did submit their financial statements by 31 May 2021. I think there was also a finding on the
even Robben Island. Your Robben Island, you did get it.
Chairperson, we have not yet finalized Robben Island. It's not part of this presentation.
Okay, I was worried. Yes, okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I was on the, Public Audit Act amendments. That question to say, what will we do, or what actions are we going to take against the department or in relation to the NAC as we are implementing the Public Audit Act amendments. So what happens is that we will conduct our audit in line with the Public Audit Act as we normally do. However, the difference now with the amendments is that we also look at the impact to say if there was an irregularity or non-compliance or fraud or suspected fraud that we identified during an audit, we also then look at what was the impact of that irregularity. So if we find that that irregularity has an impact such that there was a material financial loss to the entity or the department, it will then meet the criteria for a material irregularity. And that matter will then be reported without delay to the accounting officer to address the material irregularity. We will then enforce the powers that came with the amendment if the accounting officer fails to address the material irregularity. So part of addressing a material irregularity includes conducting an investigation to identify responsible officials. And once identified, then the accounting office or authority must take disciplinary actions against them. And there must also be recovery of the funds that were lost to the department or entity. The material irregularity will be resolved then if all of these necessary steps are being implemented by an accounting officer or an accounting authority. So basically it means that the accounting office authority is required to use or implement their responsibilities as outlined in the PFMA. If they do that, then there will be no need for us to then enforce the powers in the PFMA, because the PFMA, the PAA amendments came into effect to enforce consequence management and ensure that there's accountability. So if the accounting office or accounting authorities are starting now to implement or ensure that they enforce their responsibilities in line with the PFMA, then there will be no need for us to then take further steps like making recommendations in the audit report, making referrals, or even issuing remedial actions against them if they do what is required in terms of the PFMA. So in short, in answering that question, Chair, we will assess each finding that we identify where there was an irregularity to see what was the impact of it and whether it meets the definition of a material irregularity. Then we'll take it forward in terms of the amendments. Chairperson, I think I've addressed most of the questions that were submitted to us. Some I'm skipping because they were directed to the department, but I'll ask Umpimetsi to just also comment if there was anything that I left out. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mbali. You say Umpimetsi?
Thank you, Chair. Bali covered most of the questions, excuse me. I think the only one that was then left out is in relation to improvement on irregular expenditure as to which entity mainly contributed to that. And if I look at compared to last year, it would be NAC, where last year they had 30 million on irregular expenditure in relation to transfer payments that were made irregularly. And this year they only have about 4.6. So that is where the biggest contributor lies in relation to that. And yeah, I think that was the main one. In relation to the overall opinion on DSAC, the overall opinion was then an unqualified audit outcome with findings. I think the department will then touch on the investigations that were then not conducted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mbali and Umpimetsi. Can I now give it to the leader of each department, DG?
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members of this of the committee, and then good morning to the Auditor General, led by Ms. Tsotetsi, together with Umpimetsi here present. I have in my team all the Deputy Directors General, DDG Chikwatamba, responsible for corporate services. Also, I have DDG Kumalo, responsible for arts, culture, promotion and development. I have also in our midst the DDG Khan, who is responsible for sport, recreation and development. I've got DDG Ndema responsible for HPP, and the acting CFO is also in our midst. Honorable Chairperson, first, maybe I must acknowledge that we did indeed have a very robust but very professional engagement with the AG, constantly working together to ensure that the audit itself is finalized. And then I believe that that positive and constructive engagement by the AG will assist us to improve where we have been found to be lacking. In this regard, Chairperson, I will ask my colleagues just to answer those few areas where the AG in her response had left those gaps for us. But then maybe let me start with the one that is of importance, and that is raised about the consequence management and what the department is doing. But also I think the issue of irregular expenditure. So I'll allow first the DDG corporate services just to touch, provide a response on this issue of consequence management and what exactly is at hand with the finding that we are talking about here. Thank you very much. DDG Mandisa.
Good morning, DG, and good morning to the portfolio committee members. And thank you, DG, and thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Let me close my video first. In terms of the consequent management, this refers to forensic investigations that ought to have been conducted. We had conducted in the year respective about 19 cases under the Mora report that we closed. And we had other cases, about 10 of them, that we had not attended to. I must give a background to the situation, Chairperson, to say in the year relating to the finding, we had a couple of challenges in the unit that is dealing with these investigations. We had the head of the unit undergoing some sick leave as he got sick. And as we got a replacement of him from one of the members of staff, there were issues, allegations against that person, some findings that placed the person on some disciplinary measures. And we had another person that was appointed, a new person who soon left. So against those, there were also other 2 junior officers that left the unit. So the unit got a bit crippled in terms of its staff. But we have since recovered, and we have a recovery plan that includes appointment of additional staff members, the head of the unit as well. We are in a process of appointing that person now. We have also arranged for a cost arrangement that will help us to attend to the backlog of the cases that we have. So, Chairperson, I hope with that explanation, it gives the root cause, but it also gives our turnaround time to say at least in the next 2 months, we are intending to make sure that all these cases are attended to. Thank you.
Can I take DDG Khan? Because there was an issue relating to the irregular expenditure, as well as the issue relating to the management fee, so that we just clarify this matter. DDG Khan.
Thank you. Thank you very much, DG. Good morning, Madam Chair, and good morning, members. Good morning to the team from the Office of the AG and to our own colleagues as well. Thanks to the AG for that very insightful report. Madam Chair, from our side, with regard to the issue of the relief funding and the disbursement agency and the issue of the management fee. If we look at the sports sector, yes, that's where the query came from. Yes, our SLA did speak of a management fee, but in reality, there was no management fee paid. The entity had indicated that they would not charge a management fee because as much of the relief should go to the incumbents, the beneficiaries, etc. So no management fee was charged. They did, however, do bank charges for transactions that where expenses had to be incurred for that service. So perhaps it's the bank charges that the AG may be referring to, but this matter was ventilated very well with the AG as well. They are aware of that. The other issue, Madam Chair, is the issue of the double dipping. Now, remember, Madam Chair, when the relief funding came out, I mean, it was not only us, it was the Department of Social Development, it was also the UIF. There were many, many platforms where anyone could apply for funding. And the controls that we had in place as a department was, we asked all the applicants, and we indicated in the criteria that firstly, if they were benefiting elsewhere, they were not eligible to get funding from ourselves. The second issue, Madam Chair, in terms of control was, we asked for them to give us their bank statement so we could then look at the bank statement and verify if there were any other there was income coming through, either the income that they were generating themselves through sport or any other income from any other source. And our system, in terms of those documents, there was nothing that came through. Our suspicion, Madam Chair, which we have indicated to the AG as well, is that we need to look at on which date were payments made to those officials or to those beneficiaries. So our suspicion is that we had paid them, and subsequent to us paying them, they then benefited from other sources. And rightly so, Madam Chair, that the AG has indicated we don't have access to all the systems. But by the time the second phase came through, we had access to the SASA system. SASA gave us access to their systems, and we were able then to check and to verify if there was any double dipping. We have since also asked the UIF to give us a list, or to give them our list of people who benefited, to indicate if there's any double dipping. We're still awaiting a response from the UIF. So, and in our second phase, Madam Chair, we also asked the applicants to give us 2 months bank statements, one before COVID and one at the time they were applying. So we could see them, that they really were receiving an income, and now that they were not receiving an income. So that's what we have put in place for those things. With regard to the irregular expenditure, Madam Chair, I think from the conditional grant, there was a system, there was a non-compliance with some of the conditional grant, the DORA, the Division of Revenue Act, in terms of when we actually withhold funding from the provinces. We are expected to inform Treasury that we are going to be withholding this money, and as a result, the allocation to provinces would change. Now, at the same time that we were withholding funding, Madam Chair, there was also an instance where we had budget cuts. So we included this withholding of funds together with the budget cuts that we implement, that had to be implemented. And hence we included, and hence for that reason, we did not inform Treasury. We didn't consider it irregular or anything, Madam Chair. Our take on this was that we were now withholding funds, but at the same time there was a budget cut. So these allocations then were informed by these processes, and there was no intention for us to actually incur any irregular expenditure in that area. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
The next will be also still on the same issue, Chairperson, around the irregular expenditure. We just want to clarify the matter about DORA and what happened there with that irregular expenditure. How did it come about? And the CFO have the response that will then assist the committee to have that understanding. CFO.
Good morning, DG. Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, AG members. May I turn off my video?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Chairperson, on the matter of the irregular, of the DORA payment that was disclosed and an irregular under investigation at the end of the audit, as the department, we were seeking clarity on the matter. To give background, in the year under review, or that AG was reporting on 2020-2021, the adjustment period, when it started, it was at the time where we were supposed to pay the second quarter transfers to the provinces on the DORA mass participation grant. And as AG has said, that the process is we need to request the amended schedule, because on those payments we were levying a penalty as per our penalty framework, that these two provinces were non-compliant with the DORA payment DORA framework. So there were penalties that were levied on their transfers. So that happened during the, and as the department, when we were doing that, because we had already started with the adjustment period, we understood or interpreted the act as saying we need to get approval, and that approval would be the approval of the adjustment, because all those scheduled, the amendment, were submitted to National Treasury during the adjustment period. But unfortunately, AG's, the way we interpreted it and after we had consulted with the National Treasury under the IGR section to ask guidance of how should we have done this. We were told that we were supposed to split the request, which unfortunately, as the department, we didn't split the request of saying, one, we are doing the payment schedule for these transfers we're requesting and approval, and then also include them on the adjustment period. That's where our error is. And we have received the response from National Treasury. So in our books for the 2021-22, we will disclose correctly that irregular expenditure, which was under investigation at the close of the audit. And we will further approach National Treasury to explain our case, and we ask for condolment of this payment, because at the end of the adjustment, or when the adjusted budget was tabled in November, that schedule was approved, and what appeared at the end of the financial year was the correct payment that was done. That is the response, Chairperson and committee members. Thank you.
No, thanks. I hope that then DDG Kumalo, anything about the NAC and the PSP and the 300,000, sorry, the 300 million matters that questions that are related to that. Dr. Kumalo.
Sorry. My apologies, DG. I'm trying to find my point here. I think with respect to the issue related to the PSP, I wouldn't want to add anything further than what AG has spoken to around the fact that they would still be also looking at the investigation report that came out, Chairperson and members, and then would be able to also provide a report with respect to that, as members would be aware of the fact that that investigation was done. I think, DG, you would respond possibly to the issue of access to that particular report. However, I just wanted to touch on the fact that with respect to the investigation and on the PSP itself and the 300 million, that report is actually out, and as AG was saying, they would also further be looking at it as against the findings that they also made, which was focusing more on the issue of the financials, as it were, not on the process as was undertaken, which would come out when they do the thorough audit of the report itself. DG, I don't know whether there is any other area you want me to cover. I was just trying to keep track of what the members were asking, and I'm not sure whether there is any other area you would want me to zoom into. I can be guided on that one, because I couldn't pick up any other issue. The area of double dipping, I think with respect to the relief funds, DDG Khan has actually covered me with respect to that one, but also what the chairperson was saying in terms of a system that we need to look at across departments, because also on our side as arts and culture, in terms of the disbursement of the relief funding, we did try our best to ensure that there is checking and double checking and verification of the applications. The one cooperating entity outside of the department was the assistance that we got from SASSA in terms of them even giving us, looking at the lists that we were forwarding to them and giving us a response. But the lack of an integrated system that cuts across, I think at the end of the day, people that were opportunists then benefited, albeit at the detriment of others that should have benefited maybe. There is, and I agree with what Chair is saying in terms of then looking beyond just looking at us as a department. And I think, DG, you had indicated that you will also raise this issue within FOSAD as well, so that it can be pursued at that particular level. I'm not sure whether there's any other you want me to cover, Chair, but let me step there. Sorry, DG, let me stop there, Chair, for now.
DG? DG?
No, thanks very much, Honorable Chairperson. I think then there was a question, maybe I must just indicate that regarding the NAC, the report, NAC are busy implementing the recommendations of that forensic report. I followed up with them to know whether they are indeed implementing those, and they indicated the steps that they've already undertaken in relation to those particularly officials who are being implicated to say they have a case to answer. So there is that process. Our role then is to monitor that they do provide us with the status reports and until the final conclusion of implementing those recommendations and the outcome of that. So that is what the NAC has confirmed, that the steps already have been taken in regard to the recommendations, albeit they are still continuing with the other recommendations that are there. Was the money embezzled, or was the money misappropriated? According to the report that we have, is that the NAC was given the amount of 300 million, and then they had to have that management fee. Out of that, then the balance of that money was then for disbursement. As we speak, in our understanding is that that money of 300 million has been so far used for the benefit of the PSP objectives. In other words, and I think DDG Kumalo can just share the figures on what exactly has been done within that 300 million and the jobs that have been created to date. So there hasn't been an indication of embezzlement or people using the money for their own selfish ends as NAC. So I just wanted to clear this matter, because there has been this issue of whether the money then went to be used for fraud or whatever. We don't have that report. And the question that why we're saying that is because also we've been having almost every week without fail since the implementation of the PSP, regular meetings with entities reporting so that we monitor that there is progress in terms of the use of the funds and that they are used for the purpose intended. And those meetings were daily on Thursday, every week without fail, where entities were held to account and report on progress. And the reports we have then it will indicate that. So maybe might be helpful for the committee and the AG to just get that holistic view of what has been spent against the 300 million against these projects. That I will ask really the Honorable Chair that this be provided to the committee so that it clears the air on this matter. Now, on the issue of PenSelp, the challenges they have will emanate, of course, among others, to the issue of leadership instability there. Because first there was a CEO who, when the CEO left, then the chairperson got to be the chairperson of the board or council, got to be the acting CEO. And when the CEO was then appointed, things were just not going well between the board and the CEO. And then at the end of the day, the CEO also then had to passed on, and we have to have another new CEO there. So there has been, as the AG was saying, the state of using the words maybe stability and capacity issues. That's one of the things that unfortunately beset pencil, and we're working now very hard to work with them to ensure that there is that stability and focus on them doing what they have to do and managing the funds of the public according to the applicable PFMA principles and prescripts. Now, Chairperson, the last point maybe I need to then talk to was the matter that was raised about the departments and also its systems. That indeed we've been having this challenge as a new department of integrating systems and establishing new systems. And while we had challenges of COVID and lockdowns during this particular year, greatly affecting how we do our work, there are measures in place now, and even getting support from the audit committee member who is a specialist in ICT to first and foremost ensure that there is proper governance ICT in the department, and then make sure that then all the applicable and compliance issues based on the ICT Act, as well as the PFMA requirements of any department to comply with those ICT issues of security and management of passwords and access control, and that all those things are in place. And we have, based on the AG's report, developed immediately thereafter an audit action plan to address these areas that have been identified by the AG. We then have the Oversight Committee, the unit in the department regarding the oversight of the entities, where then we do engage and attend even the board meetings or executive meetings sometimes, but also get and monitor the reports and performance, financial performance, that they submit their reports to us, which we analyze and give feedback to the entities, but also have what we call CFO to CFO meetings between us and the entity CFOs to try and monitor what is happening in these entities. We then accept that there are indeed areas that we need to pay attention to, as assisted by the AG, on identifying lack of internal controls and make sure that no entity regresses, but also that the department is able to emulate the entities that already have the clean audit. And that is what we are working towards, so that we have unqualified without findings. As we will see, Chairperson, that a number of improvement areas have been identified that have already occurred in the department and also in some of the entities. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable members, let me take this opportunity to thank OAG and also the department. I'm seeing that we still have follow-up hands, which is in order. Honorable Madlingozi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, Dr. Kumalo is talking about looking and relooking at these reports as if somehow they are going to change. When are we having this forensic report shared with the portfolio committee, Chairperson? We need the date. How long are they going to be looking at it, Chairperson? And what are they wishing to change? I mean, who are these people that they're talking about with no names? It looks like this department, Chairperson, likes to sit on reports like the one in airport that was concluded in 2019. It is not proper to claim sub judice prohibition when the portfolio committee wants to find out about these reports, Chairperson. What is the purpose of these delays when this department needs to cleanse itself of these negative characters? You know, the NEC, Chairperson, can do their follow-up recommendations, they can do whatever, but can they share the forensic report with the committee? Because we don't need to be hearing from the DG what happened and what, and then the DG comes around and said, no, he cannot say, because he doesn't know what was in the report. Definitely he knows what is in the report. Can we have the report so that we can think and read for ourselves? Because we don't need people to read for us to understand what is the report containing. Chairperson, we need the report as soon as possible so that we can do our job properly. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Mashingos, thank you so much. DG, as you are leading the department, really we do want the report. We did see on the papers that the report is out. I'm one of the person who was given a task by honorable members wanting the report. The response from the department, honorable members, then they were saying that they are still going to give alleged people who were mentioned in that report. But now really I've heard Dr. Kumalo saying that the report is out. So we need to have that report as a committee. I'm supporting what you are saying, Honorable Mahlengos, but I must report to the committee that when we needed a report, we were having that answer that is still going to be looked at, and the people who alleged to have to answer in that report. So now it's out. We are confirming. I'm seeing the hand of Honorable Tsebo and Mbali in that order. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. Chair, I want to concur with Honorable Madlingos, and I wrote a letter to you that we need a report. But nonetheless, I wanted to find out, Chair, I thought this meeting is for only the AG. The department will have a special day for us to interact, because I'm quiet because I want to digest everything that the AG has told us for us to make an effective oversight. Now, my thinking for today, I thought we are going to deal with AG report, and then the department will come on a special day. We discuss it in detail. For an example, the NAC investigation report, which is outstanding, that it must be shared. And I wonder, why is the department now and then they go to public than for us to know? We get these things on the media. It's uncalled for us as a member of this committee. We get things in the newspaper. How effective are we going to do our oversight work while we are only reading the newspapers than for us to get first information from the department?
Thank you, Honorable Mshongo. Comments noted by the department. They are here. Mbali.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I just realized that we missed some questions on PACOVs that were asked in the first round. So I wanted to respond to those too. So there was a question about some allegations that were brought to our attention in relation to PACOVs, and to say what was the impact then of those allegations on the unqualified opinion that has been received by the entity. Without going into detail about the matters of allegations against the entity, in responding to that, I just want to highlight that yes, the entity was unqualified, because although there were material misstatements that were identified during the audit process, but those were corrected. And hence we've reported the non-compliance then in terms of the fact that the financial statements that were submitted to us were not accurate and aligned with the reporting standards, which is non-compliance with section 55(1) of the PFMA for this particular entity. So if those matters that were highlighted were in relation to the financial statements, those were corrected by the entity before you finalize the audit, hence the unqualified opinion. Then the other issue that I want to just highlight is that then there were a number of non-compliance matters that we reported against the entity, in particular the fact that they failed to prevent irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure So those matters were highlighted and reported in the audit report. We also highlighted the issues around consequence management, that the entity has not then done investigations and taken disciplinary actions against the officials that incurred irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. So even though they were unqualified, but the matters of non-compliance were still highlighted in our report. And that in relation to the matter of fruitless and wasteful expenditure, there was also a question posed. The fruitless and wasteful expenditure, it happened because they paid an incorrect supplier. Then in terms of the root cause to say, well, how did that happen? It also again goes back to the issue of preventative controls, wherein we are highlighting that there must be adequate checks and balances to ensure that you are paying the right supplier. So in this case, the officials, before they paid, that step was missed to ensure that they are indeed paying the correct supplier, hence the amount was paid to the wrong supplier. And therefore, the entity then needs to investigate this matter and ensure that there's recovery of the amounts that were paid incorrectly, again, to ensure that there is consequence management. Then, Chairperson, in closing, I also just want again to emphasize or highlight that we have proposed recommendations or commitments to this portfolio committee in terms of also playing oversight over the portfolio. We would appreciate if the committee can consider our recommendations as you are dealing with the BRR process. They are in slide 36 of the presentation, and they center around implementation of preventative controls in the entities in the portfolio, and also implementation of consequence management in relation to irregular fruitless and wasteful expenditure, as well as allegations that may be under investigation. So there are a number of allegations that are being investigated in the entities, including the NAC that the committee is mentioning now, and also at other entities like Boxing SA, there was also matters that are being investigated, and the NHC. So all of those matters, once investigations are concluded, then consequence management must be implemented. So if the committee can also just look into that, we can see that it is also your area of focus. So there is alignment in terms of our thinking, in terms of what the committee is doing going forward. Chairperson, lastly, we have a checklist that we have sent to all the members of the committee that we are asking the committee to just complete, to give us feedback on our presentation today. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mbali. DG.
Honorable Chairperson.
Your closing remarks, DG, because Mbali round up correctly so. So we're giving you as a department, after we have noted the follow-up and our comments, and then we'll get to the next item in the agenda.
Honorable Chairperson, allow me opportunity to thank you and for having invited us to be part of this meeting as a committee. We will be able to, as indicated, we have been given a date. Most of the things we will expand when we come back to report on table our annual report as a department. But we do again appreciate the work that the AG has done. As we've indicated, a lot of things that will be done under two very critical contexts. One, having to finalize the merger of the department and therefore creating new systems, business processes, as well as dealing with the people. The second issue, of course, the severe impact on COVID and everything that we were facing. So we appreciate the report, and we will then indeed provide our detailed report when we come back to table the annual report. Honorable Chairperson, I hope that at that point we'll address extensively some of the questions that have been raised by honorable members. Thanks.
Thank you so much, DG. Correctly so. As a committee, we are aware that you are coming to present that report. I'm suspecting it is the next item that a committee alone is going to look at it. Let me take this opportunity to thank Mbali and the team with this report. As this committee, we are noticing and we appreciate and will look at all your recommendations. Some are ones that we have started to deal with. Others will do a follow-up after the presentation of the next report of a department. But to the department, hoping that together we can do better. All what we've heard today from the AG, we are hoping that we'll do our oversight to you, Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, accordingly. By this, I can say that all now that is remaining is the work of the committee alone. We can release you our very important guest and our department, I think.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks a lot.
Honorable members, we're doing well. I'm happy because we have all interrogated this report. Is going to assist when a department is coming. Now to the administrators of this committee who are in to you that you must flight in order that you must consider the fourth draft. Okay, honorable members, can we now focus on our the last program that maybe we can characterize, as we don't have time. Listen, today is Tuesday. Tuesday we were supposed today to be briefed by Robben Island, as we are seeing on the proposed agenda. Both of us, all of us, not both, all of us, we are aware that Robben Island is not yet presenting anything to us as a committee, but let alone as a committee, even with the parliament. Because as you have listening to AG, that November on the 13th, I'm sure all the entities were supposed to submit to the parliament. They are not yet. Until yesterday, honorable members, I was trying to check with our administration. They were having interaction with Robben Island. Until now, Robben Island with the department and with parliament and with us, they are not yet submitting anything. So that's why at 2 o'clock, we're not going to have them with us. And then I'll just presenting, we'll take it from there. And then we are proposing that on Friday, we must have a briefing of this Boxing South Africa, Sanabo, on annual report and financial statement and other pertinent matters, and briefing by basketball, which we have shelved it. And then consideration of minutes. Can you move 16th, we are proposing briefing by Department of Sports, Arts and Culture on their annual report. 19th of November, consideration and adoption of the budgetary review and recommendation report. And then 23rd of November, on my birthday, ningiphathe kahle, you must handle me accordingly. I'll be having my birthday on this day. Briefing by the public protector on an investigation into allegations of maladministration and improper conduct in connection with the memorandum of understanding entered between the Gauteng provincial government and the Gauteng horsing industry in 1990, which subsequently led to the corporatization of the horse industry in South Africa. I'm suspecting it's one of our oversight that we've done. It is 23rd November and 26th, briefing by SASCOC and Swimming South Africa on allegations of child sexual abuse. Same day, briefing by SASCOC on the performance of Team South Africa in Tokyo 2020 Olympics and Paralympics Games. 30th November, progress reported by the Department of Sports Culture on the white paper on arts, culture and heritage. Update by department on the sports and recreation bill, recreation amendment bill, consideration of minutes. And then 7th of December, briefing by Cricket South Africa on allegations of mismanagement and an update of social justice and national building report, consideration of minutes. Let's go back to point number 1. We're all having this problem of voices. This campaign nearly damaged our beautiful voice. Honorable members, I'm presenting this report. Let's look at November, and then on 9th November, 12th November, and then go down again. Honorable, they must relook and think aloud. Go down. Honorable members, we are tabling this proposed fourth-term program to you for adoption. Honorable Malomane. Honorable Malomane.
Thank you, Chair. I think because today the issues of RIM, I think, is it still out? If it is out, can you make sure that maybe because their annual report has not been tabled and they won't present it to us if it is not tabled yet, and we need to do it before we do on the 19th the consideration and adoption of the budgetary review and recommendation report. So if maybe it can be featured before with the 19th of November, I don't know whether is it doable or not, but I'm adopting the proposed agenda.
Chairperson Dennis Joseph.
Yes, Honorable Denny.
May I ask Chairperson?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. The agenda point on the public protector, I'm not too clear. I've not been with the committee all the time since the start of 2019. I'm not too clear on that one. How does it directly, indirectly impact on our committee? The Gauteng provincial government, horse racing in the province when I was previously, horse racing was under finance. So I just need guidance on that. Thank you.
Okay. Jabu, I do have an insight of this agenda item can you take the members through?
Good morning, members again. This agenda item was tabled in the National Assembly for the committee to consider. That's why the agenda item is here, because we have to consider it as guided by the National Assembly, Chair.
Yes.
Yes.
Chairperson Madlingozi.
Yes, Honorable.
I would like to second Honorable Molemani's proposal of moving of having to insert this RIM presentation somewhere,
Yes.
so that before the budgetary report is tabled. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Madlingos. Honorable members, as I was indicated, I was going when you have already done this, adopting and proposing and seconding. The whole of November, December, January, until now, with the office administrators who have been up and down trying that IRIM must do this. And when the office of the House Chairperson indicated, and the office, the administrators, Jabu and so communicated with me. By this time, we even reported to the department about this, and even now OAG is having problem with this thing. But to us as a committee, we'll ask Ujabu to check that in between, can't we have a day that we are giving them
recording
the department to assist us, as I've said, as an individual to themselves, saying that they must assist us to make the RIM to do what is supposed to be done, because they are not yet even presented this according
recording
to
in progress.
the rules to the Parliament. We spoke last night with the Fion, who's also a researcher, spoke with Ujabu, debating this problem, and we escalated it to the department, saying that according to rules of Parliament, we cannot even entertain them to come and talk to us about this report, which they are not yet tabled. I'm taking this mandate from the committee that as from today, again, department, administration of our committee, myself, will make sure that we are revamping back to ORIM to do what is correct, as we are aware that we have issues, big issues with them, that now we cannot allow that. We must go to that day of the department not yet having them do what is correct. Honorable members, by this, let me thank you, honorable members, to be always vibrant in our meetings. You always make sure that you are part of our meetings. I do have, as a chairperson, a committed team. I do thank you again, honorable members. The program is adopted. The outstanding thing we'll be discussing immediately after this meeting, and we'll revert back to you, honorable members, about this thing of Robben Island. If there's nothing that you want to raise, can now I close the meeting?
Yes, Chair. Thank you. Satisfied.
Thank you. Thank you so much, honorable members. All is well. Wow. Who's this now? Sibongile Mput. Who are these people who are dressing so smart? Huh?
Hey, Chairperson,
Sport.
you're looking, wow.
Eh? What are you saying?
Umcha, hey, umcha.
No, you,
Chair, mina ngigqoke kamnandi.
You know what? It was very hot here in Western Cape, and you know that I've got a lot of hair, very rich hair. So I've decided to say that no, now let me take them off. And
Yena umuhle umuhle
Kanti sikushayile eThekwini kufanele uyisuse inwele.
Hayi sizobuya.
Yabo nje sikushaye eDurban nje. Uyayazi
nomamkhawula afiki kuwe.
Kufanele ukucheba inwele.
This is giant movement. You must not think that we have done with us. Thank you, honorable members. Thank you so much.
Siyabonga sihlalo. Umamkhawula afiki kuwe. Umuhle kakhulu. Umamkhawula afiki kuwe.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Love you all.
Bye all.